Nancy's your liaison. She is on your promoting.
I'd like to invite the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter to come forward and lead us in the pledge. If we'd all stand and face the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And while you're there, I have a proclamation to read to the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter. And this is in recognition of Constitution Week. And whereas on September 17th, 2012 marks the 225th anniversary of the signing of the Constitution of the United States of America by the Constitutional Convention, and whereas it is fitting and proper to accord official recognition to this magnificent document and its memorable anniversary and the patriotic celebration which will commemorate this occasion, and whereas Public Law 915 guarantees the issuing of a proclamation each year by the President of the United States of America designating September 17th to the 23rd as Constitution Week. It is my pleasure to join him, and therefore now I, Jerry Wood, Mayor of the City of Roswell, do hereby proclaim the week of September 17th through September 23rd, 2012 as Constitution Week, and I ask all of our citizens to reaffirm the ideals of the Constitution by vigilantly protecting the freedoms guaranteed to us through this guardian of our liberties, remembering that lost rights might never be regained. So thank you for coming tonight. Do we have a spokesperson for the Martha Stewart Bullock to tell us what else is happening? Come on forward to the microphone and give us your name and introduce your other members who are here tonight.
Thank you so much for an opportunity.
Would you like? Did y'all want this proclamation to take home with you?
Yeah, we did.
Oh, well, if you want a picture, let's have the entire council come down and join you. Come on, council.
We're going to do it there.
Oh, yes, let's get by the flag. Absolutely. We'll leave a space for the flag. We can do that. We can do that. Absolutely. There we go. Microphone is yours. Thank you. All right. The microphone. Tell us some things about Martha Stewart. Take the microphone.
There isn't a second one here.
I didn't check anything, but you have two. So, and if you need more, call my office.
Thank you for the opportunity to receive this proclamation on behalf of the Martha Stewart Bullock chapter, as well as the Atlanta chapter, Daughters of the American Revolution. During the time of a celebration for this 225th anniversary, members of the DAR will be across the country presenting literature and teaching classes in schools, all over. We're going to be ringing bells at 4 o'clock on Monday the 17th in honor of the celebration. And so if you're outside and you happen to hear bells ringing, it's because it's a happy anniversary. And we're asking all the children in various adult living centers, and we're trying to really enjoy the celebration. Thank you very much for your generosity, proclamation, your support, and enthusiasm.
And thank you very much for reminding us of the anniversary of the Constitution and celebrating it. And we look forward to celebrating with you and ringing bells here at City Hall.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Motion by Councilman Orleans. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions regarding the consent agenda? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. That passes unanimously. Councilman Eigelhart is absent with an excuse tonight, and both of our lawyers are absent tonight. I don't know if they're excused or not. That's up to Kay. I don't give them excuses. But I believe they're off learning more about the law and leading the state of Georgia and making our state legal. I would like to call upon Kay Love now for an introduction to our Safe Build team.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask Alice Wakefield to come up to the podium as well. This is an initiative that the city has in outsourcing our code enforcement and building administration services, and the team has been put together with some of the folks that were previously providing those services, as well as some new members to our team. We had a very nice reception at 6 o'clock to allow folks to introduce themselves to the community and vice versa. We've already had some neighborhood improvement team meetings, and they're getting out there and meeting the public. So, Alice, would you like to introduce them?
You know, when we first endeavored with the whole outsourcing of building services and code enforcement, there was definitely a concern about staffing, because we had a darn good staff existing. But I'm very pleased with the staff makeup. I'm very pleased that we have the mixture of the new faces with new experiences, new attitudes, and we have some of the old faces that we're all familiar with. So with that said, I'm going to introduce the staff to you, and I'll ask them to come up as I call. The Program Director and Chief Building Official is Ringo McCullum. And Ringo has a unique background, because Ringo is not only a master code professional and a level 5 building official, he's also a certified zoning enforcement officer. And that's not a combination that you always find. So we're pleased to have him on our team, and he has a whole laundry list of certifications, and I won't bore you with naming them all, but I would like to introduce you to Ringo McCullum. The next person is an old face, and we're excited that we have Eric Glitcher, who is the building inspector. And Eric is a certified building inspector, mechanical inspector, electrical inspector, and plumbing inspector. And Eric has been with the city since, I think it's 2004, and he's now with Safe Build, and we're glad that he is still with us. The next person I want to introduce, and he's not here tonight, is Mike Davis. And Mike Davis is the electrical inspector, and he is a certified electrical inspector. And I've known Mike from my days with the city of Milton. He was the inspector there, and he did a great job, so we're glad that he's on our team. For code enforcement, we have our code enforcement supervisors, Angela Shoemake. And Angela has certified in property maintenance and housing inspector, a master certified code inspector, and a master certified code enforcement officer. Another old face for you is Steve Johnson. Steve is the code enforcement officer. Steve was with the city staff as a code enforcement officer starting in 2002. Of course, now with Safe Build, he assumes the role as code enforcement officer. He's a master's certified code enforcement officer, and we're glad that Steve is still with us. New faces will be Mike Tooley, who's a code enforcement officer. And Mike is also a master certified level 2 code enforcement officer. He's a certified peace officer also. So we're glad to have Mike on. And Mike began his career in public safety in 1987, so we're glad that he's on the team. We have Felicia Johnson, who's our permit tech, and Felicia has been in the business as a permit runner, so she understands the other side of getting a permit through the process for over 10 years. And Felicia just joined the Safe Build team after operating her own business, and we're excited about Felicia being on the team and the professionalism that she'll bring to the front counter. And I think, although it's on this list, but to me, I saved the best for last. Sorry, guys. Because I was so excited when this person agreed to stay. And this person is was a long-time employee of the city for 30 years in code enforcement. And she is now the administrative assistant, working the front counter, working with Felicia, and helping the smooth transition of the Safe Build team. And that's Vicki Bartley.
Let's have a
And I also want to introduce John Walker, who is the district manager for Safe Build here in Georgia. Okay, this is the team.
Great. On behalf of the city of Roswell, I want to thank the employees who chose to stay with the city of Roswell, working with the city of Roswell in the direction.
Can you turn on your mic?
I want to appreciate
And for the new Safe Built team members here, we appreciate, and we're hearing great things about what you're accomplishing, and we're glad to have you, and recognize that when you are out there, you are the face of Roswell. You probably have more contact with the citizens than any of the council members up here, and we're relying upon you. But we have a lot of confidence in you and know that you'll do a good job. So one more hand for these great folks. Thank you. And you don't have to stick around for the rest of the council meeting. At this time, I'd like to recognize Councilmember Betty Price, who picked up an award for us, and she'll present it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's my distinct honor and pleasure to present to the City of Roswell the 2012 Green Space Award from the U.S. Track and Field Georgia Association.
Hold it up.
Well, just a minute. I got other things to say. You get to hold it up. The U.S. Track and Field Association, which has 14,000 national members and 5,000 members here in Georgia, selected the City of Roswell to be the sole recipient in Georgia this year due to our, quote, dedication to providing a vast green space city for youth and master runners, bikers, race walkers, and all outdoor and sporting enthusiasts for the state of Georgia, end quote. We did not apply for this award, but the chairman of the event relayed that the Hall of Fame committee was aware of our reputation. He was grateful for the green space initiatives that Roswell has embraced, and they wanted to recognize and encourage us in our efforts. I accepted the award on behalf of the mayor and council, all the visionaries who have come before us, those who have provided, acquired, shaped, and maintained these properties, and a special shout-out goes to Joe Glover and his staff in Parks and Rec, and on behalf of all the citizens of Roswell at a ceremony that was held in downtown Atlanta on August 25th, 2012. I thought it was only fitting in my role of transportation liaison that I ride MARTA to and from the event, which was held on a Saturday night. My fellow passengers on the MARTA rides were as interesting as the actual event itself, but at no time did I feel unsafe. So I'd encourage you all to take MARTA, and I'm sorry Janet Russell isn't here because she'd be happy to know that I did that. And on the same evening, there were 6 new Hall of Fame members who were inducted, and several other awards were also bestowed. It was thrilling to meet many Olympic medalists who were in attendance, and I quietly recalled my days when I ran the 440 in high school to no acclaim, I assure you. The United States Track and Field Georgia Association wanted me to bring back the message of well done to the City of Roswell and to work to recruit, encourage, and develop future track and field stars, and to continue to make efforts that will inspire future Olympians. And they were very concerned that this has not been a priority in this country or this state in recent years. So thank you all for the opportunity to represent the city on an evening when no one else was able to attend. I am very proud to live in Roswell, and thanks to all who made this happen and who share in this award. And
Joe, if you'd come forward to accept the award. On behalf of the Recreation Department, more than anyone else, deserves the credit for this. So let's have a hand for Joe Glover and the Recreation Department.
I'm just going to read what it says on the bowl. It's a beautiful glass bowl. It says, U.S. Track and Field Georgia Association proudly recognizes the City of Roswell with the prestigious 2012 Green Space Award.
Maybe you can put some Kia grass or something in it. It's green.
It's
Fill with candy.
It makes some good noise, good music.
Thank you. Good job, Joe. And next we have, I'd like to nominate Angela Hitch to serve on our Board of Zoning Appeals. Do we have a motion by Councilmember Wynn? Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. All in favor raise their hands. Passes unanimously. And with that, I'll call upon Councilmember Nancy Diamond, liaison to our Community Development Department.
Thank you, sir. This is approval of the approval of the initiation of a text amendment to amend the sign ordinance regarding the Find It All Roswell campaign and the use of temporary signs. Mr. Brad Townsend is here.
This is a proposed text amendment to be initiated to amend the ordinance to change the date for allowing the temporary banners for an additional 40 days as part of the Find It All program to be extended to 2014. Staff would recommend approval of the initiation.
And this is to allow the temporary banners for an additional time.
Right, for 2 more years.
And for an additional, was it additional
40 days? 40 days.
Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next is approval of a resolution to adopt the short-term work program and capital improvement element covering the 5-year period 2012 through 2017.
This is a proposed resolution for adoption that approves the annual short-term work program and capital improvements element covering 2012 to 2017. This has been transmitted to the Department of Community Affairs as well as to the Atlanta Regional Commission, and they have found it in compliance. Staff would recommend approval of this resolution.
You want to give the audience a very brief summary of what this does?
For the City of Roswell to collect impact fees, we are required by state statute to become a qualified local government. To maintain that, we have to annually update in 5-year increments how we would have improvements with parks and recreation and parks, public safety and transportation, and other capital improvements. And that plan subsequently goes for each year. This is an annual update for that to maintain our local quality government status.
Is that plan available to the public?
Yes,
And
it's
how would they find
online
it? It's
on our
online
website.
Under
Community Development Comprehensive Plan Annual Update.
Okay. Do we have a motion to approve?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Price. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next is approval of an amendment to Chapter 18.2.1, obstruction of street or right-of-way in the City of Roswell Code of Ordinances. And we have Alice Wakefield here to tell us.
This is one of those items where, in the course of looking at the code enforcement tasks, it was discovered that there was a slight disconnect between the practice in the Transportation Department and what one provision of the ordinance was saying. And this is basically to clarify that in Section 18.2.1, obstruction of street or right-of-way, that you can have an obstruction in the street you can't have one unless it's temporary in nature, roll-off dumpsters, and it's permitted as required in Section 18.12. And this ordinance will just go forward in making that clarification that if you need to do some construction work and you need to have the dumpster, you can get permission to do it from the Department of Transportation through their encroachment permitting process. This is the first reading. We'll ask that this matter be approved for the first reading.
Have any lawyers? You're going to fill in.
I'm going to fill in. Okay, sir. This is an ordinance of the City of Roswell, Georgia, to amend Section 18.2.1 of Chapter 18, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places. Chapter 18, Streets, Sidewalks, and Public Places is amended by amending Section 18.2.1, Obstruction of Street Right-of-Way, to read as follows. Section 18.2.1, Obstruction of Street or Right-of-Way. This section is incorporated herein and will be included. This is the first reading.
Do we have a motion to approve the first reading?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond, second by
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know there was some issue that came up recently regarding irrigation in right-of-ways, and I noticed that it's mentioned in Section 18.1.2, but that's really not part of what we're changing, is it?
No, it's not.
So we couldn't tag... I know we had a solution, but I just wondered if it would be fitting to attach it here, but I guess we don't need to.
It does not require an ordinance. For the council's information, we had a question of how would you... There was a question about how you would water grass in the beauty strip between the sidewalk and the street, because water department didn't want the spray being sprayed on the sidewalk, and transportation suggested drip irrigation would be an appropriate way to do it. And so we, by just administratively, we're going to allow folks to put drip irrigation in the right-of-way. Councilmember Wynn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Wakefield, I think I asked a couple of questions at committee, and I just, if you can refresh my memory for me. One of them was about time. Are we going to put a limit on the time? That's number one. And number two is the reflection or some type of something that could be put on the dumpsters so at night it reflects and people can actually see it so they don't run into it. So those are my two questions.
Yes, when someone comes in for a permit, they go to transportation, and I know that the requirements will be is that there would be a time limitation, and if it's going to be there for overnight, but that's not going to be the norm, that they would have to put reflectors on the dumpster.
So that'll be handled through the transportation
It's handled
department?
through the transportation department.
Okay, thank you very much.
This is one of those things where we're cooperating with each other.
Does anyone in the audience have any questions about this ordinance? All in favor of the first reading, raise their hands. It passes unanimously.
Wait, comment?
Comment, yes.
Actually, in the ordinance that we're changing, it does make reference to the irrigation water. So do we want to specify that drip irrigation is exempted? Because right here it would indicate it's unlawful.
Well, if I may, I think it indicates that it's unlawful by amending the ordinance saying unless temporary in nature and permitted as required in Section 18.1.2. And Steve can correct me if I'm wrong. I believe transportation will have the ability to make that approval.
Well, but it wouldn't be a temporary thing.
Well,
Why don't we go ahead and put the language in now?
Well, because this is the first reading, you can suggest we put it into the second reading.
Okay, can we
change that?
coordinate and look at that and,
Yes.
and make sure that we don't make unlawful what we're telling people now that they can do?
That would be a good plan.
Thank you.
Thank you for that correction, and we will incorporate that into the second reading. Next item, please. Oh, we haven't voted? I thought we voted. All in favor of the... Well, do you wish to make an amendment to it? I thought we had voted. You can make an amendment to it if you wish. We already voted.
Well, since this is only the first...
Councilman Orton said we already voted.
We already voted, and this is the first reading. I think if this
We'll
is the
address
first
it.
reading and we can amend it
We can
between
amend
now
it.
and next month, I think
We
that's
have already
fine.
voted, and we will ask to incorporate that amendment in the second reading. I thought we'd voted.
Well, I don't know. What do I know? I'm not-
It's not the first time I've missed a vote. Next item, please.
Next item is approval of a resolution to submit the 5-year Atlanta Street Town Square LCI update to the Atlanta Regional Commission. Ms. Wakefield.
This is approval of a resolution to adopt the 5-year plan update to the Atlanta Street Town Center Corridor Livable Centers Initiative. This update is due to ARC by September the 30th. This is one of the requirements for those that receive an LCI, that you have to do periodic update, and this is the 5-year update for that particular plan. Basically, the update identifies those tasks that have been completed and the time frame for those that are remaining.
Is this submitting the Duani proposal? No.
It's reference, not this, that's a separate but a part of it, but it's referencing the historic gateway that was accomplished. It's referencing the Oak Street improvements, the Roswell Town Square improvements, the bus shelters, the Barrington Hall staircases, I think I mentioned Grove Way, and any other improvements that have taken place in that LCI boundaries.
Oh, so this isn't talking about future plans. It's talking about what
has been accomplished.
What has been accomplished.
Yes, sir.
I understand. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Price. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next up is approval of a resolution to submit a Georgia Initiative for Community Housing application.
Okay. This is the Georgia Initiative for Community Housing. It is a collaborative program of the University of Georgia, the Georgia Department of Community Affairs, and the Georgia Municipal Association. This is a 3-year program that is spent on identifying needs and team building. The first 2 years relate to implementation plans and activity. If Roswell is selected to participate, it will be the largest city to participate in the program and will be the only one in the metro Atlanta region. The cost to the city is approximately $1,000 a year for the 2 facilitated retreats. This is in collaboration with the Roswell Housing Authority. It's a joint application, and we ask that this resolution be approved because the application deadline was September the 7th, which we've sent the application with the understanding that we will follow with the resolution.
Tell me the nature of these retreats, who would attend, and a little more detail. I'm supportive. I'm just curious.
Well, the one thing about the program is that they give very specific guidelines as to the participants, and what we are proposing is that we have an elected official, and we have Councilmember Nancy Diamond, of course, who's a liaison to Community Development Department, staff, which would include Stephanie Dye and Charles Ashford. We have a real estate representative, a builder, developer, planning commission member, a nonprofit representative, someone from Habitat for Humanities, the Public Housing Authority, ARC representation, Chamber of Commerce, our Business Alliance, a DDA member, a resident, and someone from the faith-based organization.
And what do we hope to accomplish at this retreat?
What you hope to accomplish is that a way to look at and to analyze and to prepare for housing and a variety of housing. But also one of the most important things that it will do for us, it will put the city along with the Housing Authority in a better position when the city goes after funds like the low-income tax credit that's currently pending before the Department of Community Affairs. So it's more of a technical assistance, it's more of a collaboration, think tank type of situation.
So we'll try to create a vision for
housing.
Housing.
Yes, sir.
In Roswell, alternate housing.
Yes, sir.
That's a good thing. Thank you for that information. Did we get a motion? Do we have a motion for approval?
Move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
All right, next is approval of a resolution establishing an economic development incentive policy.
We bring this before you not only just on behalf of the city and the city staff, but also on behalf of the Roswell Business Alliance, and also as a one step to start the implementation of the Strategic Economic Development Plan. When we looked at a way to promote economic development, and we have some great incentives. We have, of course, the Opportunity Zone, and we have Freeport exemption, but those are really state programs. It's important that the city has incentives that the city can offer. So basically, in looking at what some other cities do, in particular, we looked at Sandy Springs, we looked at the city of Alpharetta, we looked at Cobb County, we came up with the Economic Development Incentive Policy. And basically, that policy we're proposing is that the city would offer incentives for incentives that would go about to waive or reduce the permit fees, waiver of the impact fees, which is currently in the zoning ordinance now, so that's not anything that's new, waiver of business registration fee, and expedited permitting. The criteria that we came up with, because we wanted to set the bar sort of high, that we can always amend this, is that the business would achieve the goals of the SEDP and the 2030 comp plan, 50 or more new full-time jobs, and a capital investment of $50 million. And I think if Mr. Strout would like to voice his desire for this, is that there's a lot of inquiry that's coming in for the city of Roswell, and what we're hearing quite often is, well, what is the city going to offer? What is the city going to offer? We have structured this such that it is not an automatic, that it is a proposal that would be analyzed by a economic development incentive staff made up the city administrator, the finance director, the Roswell Business Alliance representative, and the community development director. That committee would do an analysis and then would present that to mayor and council. Ultimately, the decision is mayor and council. Is at your sole discretion that you grant all or in part the incentives. The requirement is that there would be a written agreement, and I know this came up at committee, and the issues that came up, or the concern was that some assurance that the business would comply with the terms of the agreement, and that's part of the agreement. There would also be a timetable and a list of the kinds of improvements or development that the project will include, a timetable for complying with the criteria, the duration of the agreement, and also provision to recapture the value of the city incentives if the business fails to meet up to the expectation.
All right, go back to your list of incentives. All right. So is there when you talk about reduction or waiver of impact fees or business registration fee, do we have any objective standards other than that major criteria as to how much it might be reduced, or the level of these waivers? You know, because is this an all or nothing thing? You either waive all the impact fees or part of the impact fees, or is this a sliding scale? No, sir. That is on a case-by-case basis, based on the recommendation of the committee and up to mayor and council. I mean, the committee may come back and say, we think you should waive all the permit fees, and the city council and mayor, you may decide that you're only going to waive 50% of it. Jay Love would like to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One of the pieces of analysis that the committee will conduct will be the revenue impact. So looking at the taxes that parcel provides to the city, looking at the types of jobs and the revenue impact it has on the economy. We have some metrics to use with that. So there'll be an analysis to look and see what those offsets will or will not be, and a recommendation would be based upon that. We don't have a standard scale because each case could be different. So if the committee were not recommending a complete waiver, then there would be the justification of a partial waiver or obviously no waiver.
Do we anticipate establishing some scale or some criteria rather than just being a case-by-case basis each time?
If the mayor and council direct us to do so, yes, sir.
I would encourage y'all to, because when in business you like to have some predictability. You like to have some idea. So if Steve is out there pitching this, he will have an idea of what you might qualify for, rather than just saying, well, it's possible, but I don't know, because it's a first-time thing. So, and I know that as an initial effort, we may not have that criteria and scale right now, but I would encourage y'all to develop one, even if it's not a binding one. At least it establishes some criteria and some way to look at this thing, so it's not just a case-by-case basis, and you have no predictability. And now go back and look at your threshold numbers. Let's look at that for a minute. I would encourage the council to look at lowering this threshold because it is a sliding scale and very flexible. Yes.
I believe that's a typo. It's supposed to be 15 million in item 3.
Oh, gee. Sorry, it's my typing. Thank you.
15 million.
Is that for lowering?
Well, that's substantial. I would encourage you, as you develop this sliding scale, to see. I know there's a certain administrative, analysis, but for example, if somebody brought in 25 jobs and $1 million, I'd be glad to expedite his processing. I would be glad to waive some small fees, perhaps not the impact fees. So I would encourage the council and staff, as we develop this, to try to broaden this, because it is, if it's 50 million, we give him the royal treatment. If it's $1 million, I still want to try to say we want to do something to try to encourage you to. And so incentives, even small incentives, show an attitude, show that you're encouraging it. So I would encourage, as we develop this thing, to take a look at it and perhaps come back with further recommendations as you've had more experience with it, to say, can we lower the threshold even more? Because what we have recognized in Roswell, our major market is not the big guys. Our major market is the guys with 5 and 10 and 15 employees. And therefore, I don't want to create this large threshold which works once a year. I'd like something that everyone who comes to town has a little something. So I would encourage y'all to continue to study this. I support in this one, but I don't want to stop here. I want to take as y'all look at this further, and I would encourage Nancy to take a look at this, and I would encourage Rich, who's supportive of this, I'm sure, to say how can we expand this, recognizing we don't want to give up a lot of revenue, but even small incentives show a willingness to work with people. Rich, you have your hand up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree, and we had talked at committee about going back after we approved this to implement or start looking at a small business incentive, which I think is a great idea. A question I had for this, we had also talked at committee about having items 2 and 3 on your criteria list be an or rather than an and. So if we had somebody who came in and had a redevelopment of $15 million of, say, a shopping center we used as an example, they wouldn't necessarily have employees, but they're still investing $15 million, so we wanted to make sure that they qualified too. So it looks like this policy was not written that way. Is the intent to have that either or?
No, it was changed. It was changed on page 1 to or. Between 2 and 3.
Oh, I see it now. Thank you.
Other questions or comments? Councilmember Price.
Regarding incentive number 4, expediting the permitting process, I know that
So
isn't...
go back to your incentives page.
I know that's not to imply that everybody else gets a slow permitting process. What would be different?
No, not at all. What is different, oftentimes a development will come in and they will submit for, you know, their land disturbance or whatever permit, and it kind of goes more in an ABC 1, 2, 3 fashion. What we're talking about is and we do this on smaller projects, and Steve can tell you we've done this on several projects. We bring all of the different departments and the different divisions in, and we do it more of a shotgun approach where the land disturbance is doing their review and what they have to do, building is doing their review and what they have to do in transportation, so that we can speed up, and we've done this quite often, and cut down on the time.
I've used it before too with y'all.
Yes, I guess my question then is, does this stress the department to...
Absolutely, but they're up for it. They can handle it.
So
Yes, we are.
So what's the difference if you're bringing in 10 employees or 30 employees as far as the permitting process itself?
For the permitting process, there's really no difference. I mean, it's the only difference is, and it's your choice. I mean, even if you don't take advantage of this and you want to meet with all of us at one time, we're available to meet with you. I mean, just the normal procedures that you meet with Jackie and Brad, you go through the zoning process, then you move on to either the building permit process or the land disturbance process. But if you want to meet with all of us at one time and submit your plans and we review them concurrently, we are always open to that.
We move quickly on every project, but those projects which are super projects, we move super quickly.
So we could say this is a new policy compared to our old policy? Is that what we could say?
This is a written policy compared to before we had an unwritten policy.
Okay.
We had a practice. Now we're putting it into a written policy.
Yes, sir.
so that not only do we act business friendly, we publish that we're business friendly and let people know that as a matter of written policy we're business friendly. We institutionalize.
Yes.
Sounds great. I'm all for it.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Yes, sir. I would like to comment. This is just a first step to a number of things, but since we have pared down our staff, given the economic times, if a portion of what we're hearing starts to come true, we don't want to put ourselves in too many incentives and get too behind the 8 ball on our staffing, so we will tread carefully.
If Steve brings in the business, we'll gear up the staff.
Yes.
I promise you, Steve.
We
You
will
bring in the
continue
business,
to
we'll
move
gear up the
forward.
staff. Safe Build has a lot more folks out there they can bring on board.
I would move to approve.
Motion by Councilmember Diamond. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Orleans. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. This time we'll call upon Councilmember Price to call the Transportation Department agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign a contract with Johnson Landscapes, Inc. for the MARTA pedestrian sidewalk construction project in the amount of $435,918.99. Steve Asenbrack will give us the details.
Thank you, Councilmember Betty Price. Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, good evening. We have a number of important issues to go through tonight. The first is this awarding of a contract for to Johnson Landscapes. We submitted a bid, and we received 5 bids. Johnson Landscapes was the lowest responsible bidder. These projects will constructing 4 locations of sidewalks to continue and ultimately end the very successful program we've had with our MARTA offset money. This will add an additional 3,570 linear feet of pedestrian improvements, which is 2/3 of a mile. It will add to our inventory of 2.5 miles of sidewalk that we built in 14 locations, and I'll walk you through those now. This is a map of the city of Roswell, and the 4 locations that we're talking about here, Hembry Road, Norcross Street, Canton Street connecting to City Hall, and Pine Grove Road. And I'll show you briefly those in a little...
Tell us about the Canton Street connecting to City Hall.
Yes, sir. I'll tell you about all 4 of them.
That's the one I particularly...
That's the one you particularly want? All right, I'll jump right to that one.
We were walking the DOT guys over there. And
Yes, sir. Well, this is it. We've designed this, and now we're ready to construct it. And the way this is going to work is we are going to make a connection. Right now, here is City Hall, and here's State Route 9, and here's Canton Street. And so what we're going to do is we're going to take and make a little connection, brick paver connection, right now to make it easier to get to this east side of this lot, and then we're going to make crosswalk improvements here and sidewalk improvements just on the south side of Canton Street. Right now you have to kind of make this real circuitous movement around a wall, and there's a big signal cabinet in the way, and as Councilmember DiPolito pointed out early on, is that it's very difficult for people that don't know the area very well to really get a good bead on when they're parking here at City Hall how to get to Canton Street. So we're going to make that easier for them.
Is this going to have lighting for folks at night?
This will not include lighting. This project is not, but I have it on good faith that our Recreation and Parks Department is all over it. So we're setting the groundwork, and they're going to come in here shortly and do that portion of it.
Are we going to have some signage so folks will be able to today direct people from Canton Street to parking and from the parking to
we can, Mayor. Yes, sir. We can do that. Probably would be effective for events, right?
But I think
we can supplement it for, say, a Live After 5 and some of those the bike race
would help. So
yes, sir.
So people that are there at the Triangle will know there's some parking. And
yes, sir.
That'll
trying to make it simple and easy.
Thank you, sir. Other questions? Councilmember Price.
Under the item headed financial impact.
Yes, ma'am.
$244,000 come out of the MARTA.
That's correct.
Does that deplete that fund?
Yes, ma'am. That's the end of the gravy train for MARTA.
So then the remainder comes out of the sidewalk connectivity program account.
That's correct.
Which obviously would not be depleted, and there'll still be some remaining there.
That's correct.
Okay, great. And I believe at one point we passed allocating money for lighting of that already. I think we allocated $30,000 for that last year.
40,000?
40. We got 40 in there for lighting. Okay, great.
Do I hear
Thank
50?
you.
Just kidding.
Do we have a motion?
Move to approve signing a contract with Johnson Landscapes for MARTA pedestrian sidewalk in the amount of $435,981.99.
Do we have a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Motion by Councilmember Price. Anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Councilmember DiPolito.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to note that Keith Long, who is a landscape architect who is on the Blue Ribbon Committee, was instrumental in putting together the design for the sidewalks from Canton Street to City Hall. And he did the original concept, and just wanted to thank him. He volunteered his time to do that. So it was
thank you, Keith Long.
Big part of this project.
He was.
Well, we'll have to have him there to cut the ribbon.
Yes.
All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Next item is approval for the mayor and/or city administrator to sign the annual road striping contract to Peak Pavement Markings, LLC. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Every year, road striping is an important part of our maintenance operations. It provides positive guidance to motorists, bicyclists, and pedestrians. And I will say, Mayor, you kind of threw me off. I had a little presentation for the last one, but what I was going to show you is on all 4 of these sidewalk projects, there are crosswalk improvements. And that is because we are not only helping the pedestrians to move along the roads, we're also helping them to cross it. So in order to do that, we have to effectively mark the pavement, and we do this by both paint and thermoplastic. It's actually more rigorous than you may think with the dimensions and the sight distances and making sure the pavement is in good shape. So it's sort of the icing on the cake in the road building business. After you've done all the construction and the drainage and the paving, then you come back and stripe it. Now we have some capabilities within our own system, within our own sign shop, and it does limited amount of basically refreshing places, but when it comes to what we call long line striping, we need a contractor that has the trucks and the equipment and this expertise. And so that's what this contract does for us, which is basically supplements our city staff and does those professional stripings like you may have seen at 9 and 120 or some of the longer stripings along some of the longer roadways after our repaving program. So we have used this contractor, Peak. They're a statewide contractor. They do a very good job, and I can recommend them to you.
And do we have an estimate of how much we'll spend this year?
Mayor, we spend, year to year it varies, but we spend between $50,000 and $80,000 a year, and we use various fund sites within the budget to fund that. Basically, what this will be is an on-call service, and we'll issue them task orders for things like crosswalks and arrows and those sorts of things.
So we're not entering a fixed contract.
There is no firm
amount.
fixed. That's correct. There's no expectation.
They're on call.
Yes, sir.
Great. Does the council have any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Yes, move to approve signing the annual road striping contract with Peak Pavement Markings, LLC.
Motion by Councilmember Price for approval. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Wynn. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? Y'all are a quiet crowd. We like that. All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The next item is approval of a resolution to abandon a portion of Elizabeth Lane. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Elizabeth Lane is a small dead-end road, and here's a graphic for your consideration.
You want to get a little bigger scale so I can actually see where that is? Found it.
This is Woodstock, and Canton Street turns into Crabapple.
Yes. Now I know where Elizabeth Lane is. I always thought it was a driveway.
You know, it looks like a driveway, and as you come into it, there are 2 houses that basically it serves right now, and it's this little stub. This little section doesn't show up so well on the overhead, but basically here's the road. It is a little driveway.
I'm just curious, when's the last time we maintained that road?
It's been quite a while, Mayor. Citizens have asked, specifically in March 23rd, 2012, Catherine Logan, who lives in the streets above it, who wants access to the area behind it, is looking to build a shop with a septic tank, and Fulton County requires a full acre for a septic tank. And what we did was even your transportation department, who are the connectivity people, and we looked at lots of uses of this road, there's really no future connectivity access for this. So the staff can in good conscience recommend this. We have no plans for this property. Abandoning it will reduce the street maintenance costs and liability. The other adjacent property owners do not object to this abandonment, and the Logans have submitted a survey and the attached abandonment documents for your consideration.
Are we just abandoning the rear portion or the
It's
entire?
actually the eastern portion.
Eastern portion.
Yes, sir. It's basically the end, and that will allow them access to the south.
All right, so that which is adjacent to the front lot will still remain a public street.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Well, let's encourage them to abandon that one too.
We could, but it takes a while to work these things out.
I understand. Having a street that only serves 2 houses is not cost effective.
Yes, sir.
And as you said, there's no possibility for connectivity. I agree with you. Does the council have any questions?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, Councilman Orleans.
Steve, I'm sorry, would you point again where the shop is going to be?
The house is here, and the shop is going to be down in this area.
And in looking at the map, what's to the right of what you just encompassed?
Did I get it wrong? Yeah.
This is the owner that wants the abandonment. It's this lot here.
Okay.
So these two lots will still have right-of-way.
So there are three.
Down here, the shop and the septic tank are
Shop
down.
is on a vacant piece
When
of
we
property.
say shop, we're not talking about retail shop.
No.
No, it's like a workshop.
Workshop.
Okay, that was...
A residential
Like a garage.
structure.
All right, that makes more
Garage.
sense. That makes more sense. It's right at the end of Elizabeth Way.
Correct.
And so the street will stop at the lot line and serve the two houses in front.
Right.
And it's a shop, because I was wondering if it was retail as well.
No, not open to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Price, do you have a question?
Yes, I just want to make sure that the homeowner involved, and I guess they're taking both abandonments from that and the adjacent,
That's correct.
and they are aware that this would increase their taxable valuation.
Right. The one that wants it is acknowledged that the other one wanted no part of it, and so they withdrew all of their rights to it because they don't want to have to pay the extra taxes.
Right, so that the homeowner is assuming both.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion?
Yes, move to approve the resolution to abandon a portion of Elizabeth Lane.
Motion for approval by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember DiPolito. Does anyone in the audience have any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
The final item in transportation this evening is the approval to accept the final report of the Hulkenbridge Road Corridor Study. Mr. Asenbrack.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. It actually gives me quite a bit of pleasure to end tonight my remarks with a real success story. The Hulkenbridge Road Corridor Study is really a good piece of work. Here's the study. This was done. I need to take a shout out to our staff, Andrew Antweiler, who's the project manager, Prasoon Sinha, the project manager from Arcadis. Our consulting teams did a great job. And let me tell you a little bit about this. This project.
Put the picture on the overhead so you're bragging about.
Yes, sir. Well, this is the copy of the study, and this is basically the master plan. But this is a year's worth of very, very technical details. We had stakeholders both from the local business communities, many of the local businesses around here, and a whole different stakeholder group of all the technical advisors. So we had people from GDOT, from MARTA, from CERTA, from all the agencies that have an interest in this area. And we worked through short-term, mid-term, and long-term projects. We ended up with a list. We had 5 goals for the project that you can see here: enhance the safety, manage congestion, enhance the user's experience, increase bicycle and pedestrian transit mobility, support redevelopment. And also embedded in that were things such as the fact that this really is the gateway to the city off of Georgia 400. And it's very important that not only that this function well, that it increases economic viability, but it also looks good. So they included all those issues. They had a list of 22 projects that they divided up into short, medium, and long term. But here's where it gets really good. This study cost the city a year's worth of effort and $500,000. Of that $500,000, we spent $100,000, and $400,000 of it was federal money. We've already leveraged 2 projects. GDOT has already said, this is great work, and I'm going to go ahead and take off of your back of your napkin 2 of these projects, and has agreed to fund them at $1.6 million. That's a return on your investment of 16 to 1.
Which projects are those?
The early on-ramp.
Early off-ramp.
I'm sorry, not the early off-ramp, but the northbound off-ramp, which was going to help mitigate that weave between the folks that are exiting north off Georgia 400 to go eastbound on Holcomb Bridge Road. And then the Warsaw Road is going, by the Olive Garden, is going to have that turn lane extended, and we've already worked through the signal timing to actually give them 2 cycles per signal to flush that lane out and improve operational efficiencies, because what happens is people that are turning left there, they back up into the general purpose lanes, and then that clogs everything up. So GDOT's already picked those up, and we're actually in discussions for a third project, which is the southbound on-ramp, and we're still, they agree that it's a good project. We're working on getting operational money. They have statewide, they have a very limited budget. I have sad to tell you that Alpharetta beat us to the punch. Alpharetta was the first city to actually dip into that pot, but we are the second, and our project is a lot bigger.
We're partners with Alpharetta.
So we're partners with Alpharetta.
We're glad to see that they're on the ball too.
But that's a limited pot for the whole state, and Alpharetta and Roswell are the first two, and because we did our homework up front and did this study even before we knew that money was available, we were the first in line and we were able to get that. So doing these types of studies is good business for the city of Roswell. A 16-to-1 return on the investment is something that I'm very proud to report to you, and it also really paved the way for our bond projects, which, thanks to your vision, has allowed us to take quite a bit of that future bond revenue that we're anticipating passing in November and apply it to the projects that are just ready to go. I mean, they're ready to start design right away because of the work of our good team.
Well, let me see if just so we don't miss that, put your picture back up.
That's better than the investment department.
If you can show what we're getting GDOT money for, and what we're getting, what we're asking the city for bond money for, and what the total projects, we add all these up, will be if the citizens approve.
This is kind of a spaghetti map here, and what it does is it shows you the limits of the entire project. It went from Warsaw Road to Holcomb Woods Parkway, and it actually envisioned the Big Creek Parkway, and it's not part of this study, but it also envisions this connection up here to North Point Parkway. So there's 22 projects on this map. It's project number 2 here, which is this line right here.
That's GDOT.
That's GDOT, and then project number 6, which is this turn lane, right?
And
good, okay.
And those 2 projects add up to how much?
That's $1.6 million.
1.6, and then the city, the bond referendum projects, if you'll show those.
There are, in the bond referendum projects, now, the way that works is, if you take this graphical list and turn it into a table, it looks like this, and they're shaded such that...
I like the map better.
This group, well, this represents the short-term, mid-term, and the long-term projects. So what we've done, Mayor, is we have a pool of...
Can you show us the short-term projects on your map?
I can, but I just wanted to let you know that the bond will be funding some of the short-term projects that are listed here.
Right.
All right, so we don't know exactly which ones because we're still negotiating with GDOT on having them do it. But some of the
hope to get some more money from GDOT.
Yes, sir.
That's
correct. We're trying to leverage our money
news.
and work a partnership. So we're talking about the southbound on-ramp, the southbound off-ramp, the early off-ramp, the third through lane on the east side of 400 for the westbound lanes, and then landscaping and aesthetic improvements throughout the corridor as much as we can leverage. So it's not a panacea, it's not going to fix all our problems, but it will make significant and immediate improvements to our network, and it will look better.
I would like to thank the council for their support of the Transportation Department, and Councilmember Price, liaison to the Transportation Department, and most particularly the Transportation Department. You are doing wonderful things. It's paying off. Tonight's a great example of that, and I'm excited about these projects and the projects to come, because I do believe we have the best Transportation Department in the state of Georgia, and this is just one good example. So let's have a hand for our Transportation Department. They're doing great work. Do I have a motion for approval?
I'd like to move to accept the final report of the Holcomb Bridge Road Corridor Study as received.
Motion by Councilmember Price. Is there a second? Second. Well, Councilmember Orleans is on the ball. He gets the second. Does anyone in the audience have any other good things to say about these projects? Or any questions or comments? All in favor of the motion, raise their hands. Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
We have a recommendation for closure to discuss personnel and real estate. Do we have a motion? Motion by Councilmember DiPolito. Is there a second? Second by Councilmember Diamond. All in favor, raise their hands. Passes unanimously. We are adjourned. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you, Mayor.
And great